My mini Battle Royale map came out 3 years ago, and today I'm going to be giving you a tour of the current Chapter 2 Season 6 map. If you happen to enjoy this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing and using code Wotts to check in the Fortnite item shop. Also remember, at 2,000 subscribers, I'm going to be ranking every single Fortnite skin, so make sure to subscribe. Let's get straight into the video. Alright, for our first POI, we actually have a new POI. Wasn't new this season, but it was new at the end of last season before I did that map tour, so yeah. This is Lake Lava, and as you can tell, it's a volcano. We are inside a volcano right now, and this previously had a lava floor, but the lava floor has since been removed due to just lava not working and Fortnite refusing to fix it, so, you know, quite unfortunate. You got a capture point here. You also have two vending machines over here. One is for materials in case you get stuck down here. You can always buy some materials. And the other is an exotic vending machine with the burst quad launcher for this season. You can also see a better view of the POI from here. You know, pretty nice volcano vibes. Alright, we are on to our first landmark of the video, which is Bouncer Bridge. So Bouncer Bridge is a futuristic reimagining of the bridge landmark from previous Wotts Royale Chapter 2 seasons. The bridge itself being a reimagined version of the road landmark from Wotts Royale Chapter 1. And yeah, as you can see, it's just a basic bridge, but we have bouncers like going all around the sidewalk, you know. It helps you get around fast, you know what I'm saying? Alright, our next named POI is Ripsaw Ridge. So Ripsaw Ridge was introduced in the tail end of Chapter 2 Season 4 of Wotts Royale. You know, there's a very clear aesthetic here. You got these rustic yellow buildings. This building used to have two Ripsaw launcher spawners right here. Those have since been removed due to storage, you know. Map is getting pretty tight on storage, so, you know, you have to make sacrifices where you can. And yeah, I just happened to be one of them. This POI is still pretty solid though. You know, still got plenty of buildings, very compact, you know. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Our next named POI is Slappy Site. So Slappy Site, I believe, is the current... Actually, no, it's not the biggest POI. It's one of the biggest POIs. The biggest POI is somewhere over there, and we'll get to it later. But Slappy Site is personally one of my favorite POIs. I just love how it looks. I love the aesthetic, you know, it's pretty cool. Sorry for that cut. Just forgot to turn off the storm. But yeah, anyways, as I was saying, Slappy Site, one of my favorite POIs that I've ever made for this map. And it's probably one of the more iconic POIs for this map too. It features in a lot of like the side maps I've made for Wotts Royale, such as my Chaos Combat map or my Reload map, which just came out, so you guys should definitely go check those out after you're done with this video. And yeah, overall classic POI, really cool idea, you know, slap juice themed POI, you know, it's just a really solid POI overall. Alright, our next named POI is fairly new. This is Sunny Stage. So Sunny Stage was introduced in Chapter 2 Season 5, which was the previous Wotts Royale season, and this POI is a remix version of the Stage POI from Chapter 1 Season 3. Basically, that Stage POI came back during Chapter 2 Season 3, was turned into Standy Stage, which was a Chapter 1 Season 4 POI being brought back into Chapter 2 Season 4, and then Chapter 2 Season 5 turned it into this Sunny Step kind of inspired POI to kind of go with the whole jungle theme of that season. And I really like how this POI looks. I think it's one of the better aesthetics on the map, and yeah, you got some nice references such as that red Rudolph nose, which has been on every iteration of the stage. Overall, I'm a really big fan of this POI. So our next named POI is Demolished Divot. So Demolished Divot was added in the tail end of Chapter 2 Season 5 and was a result of Fountain Fortress being taken out of the sky and floating to the center of the island, creating Lake Lava. When the island went to the middle of the sky, this dig site kind of like formed and started digging out the area, you know, got some nice minerals. See if anything was here, anything of importance is here. And, you know, maybe there will be something of importance. Who really knows? Who really knows? Also, we do have the other Fountain Fortress buildings, such as the Shrine building. I did say that if I ever did remove Fountain Fortress, I would keep the original buildings because I like them, and so I did. They are not landmarks, they're kind of like grouped in with the Demolished Divot, sort of. They're not really part of Demolished Divot, but you know what I mean. They're basically the same area. And yeah, just decided to keep them around because I like the buildings, you know? Alright, so we have our first Shrine landmark. So these shrines were introduced during Chapter Season 5 periodically throughout the duration of that season, and each of these shrines introduced a mythic weapon. This repeater shrine introduced the explosive repeater rifle mythic. It is no longer in the game as the shrines have kind of, you know, been removed, but, you know, maybe we'll see these mythics come back in a later season. You know, perhaps maybe during the end of the year, maybe. Could see that happen. That's always a possibility. But yeah, right now these shrines just don't have anything of value. There's nothing good there. They're just kind of remnants of a previous season. Our next named POI is Covert campsite. So Covert campsite's obviously like a campgrounds area, you know, you got the big old watchtower in the middle. Kind of got this rustic wood Viking-esque aesthetic. This POI was mainly added as like a good way to fill up space on the map, you know. There wasn't really anything here before, it was just like 3 big old mountains that took like 2 seconds to make. So, you know, I decided to remove those and replace them with a pretty cool looking POI. And I believe that Covert Campsite's watchtower has the highest point on the map, although that might be in contention with another POI we'll get to later on over there, as you can see. It might be, it might not be. I believe it's like it's in competition. But yeah, you know, pretty cool campground POI. You know, got the nice aesthetic. Got the watchtower that's really cool to play around in, yeah. Alright, we have our first new POI of Chapter 2 Season 6. This is Rainbow Retreat. The Rainbow Retreat is a new POI that was added for the summer, you know, kind of event, you know. Rainbow Retreat was not here at the start of Chapter 2 Season 6. It actually came during Week 2 with the summer update. And, yeah, it's a very small kind of recluse, I think that's the word, recluse POI. You know, nothing crazy is going on here. You got 4 little, like, rental retreats, you know, just with some basic stuff in here. In the back, you also have, like, a partying area, you know, with, like, a stage and everything. Got some, like, seats to sit around. And, yeah, it's overall just a really nice-looking island. You know, it's cool. There might be some changes here next season. Who knows? Who really knows? But, yeah. I like how this POI turned out. I think it looks really neat. Alright, we have our first new landmark of the video. This is Camp Neo. Now, in Chapter 2 Season 5, we introduced, like, camps around the jungle biome, which they weren't, like, this, futuristic, I guess you could say, but they weren't, like, primitive, you know? But with the new, season, I decided to make them more futuristic, get rid of that, like, red, rustic kind of, like, outpost aesthetic, and got this nice, clean, futuristic kind of vibe on them, you know? So these POIs are, like, identical to how they used to be, they just look different, and they're more visually appealing. Alright, our next POI is Rowdy Resort. Rowdy Resort, coastal POI. It's meant to, like, represent, like, those resort houses that you see on, like, coastlines and stuff, you know? You know what I'm saying? We got one of these houses, like a hangover pool. I believe they're called, like, infinity pools or something like that. I might be wrong about that, but, you know, pretty cool aesthetic, you know? Got this, like, rich mansion kind of vibe, you know? Pretty spacious in here. Got some nice middle decoration. You know, it's just an overall kind of chill vibe. Kind of cool. You know, you probably would want to, you know, take a vacation in one of these places, you know? If you had to live on this island, you'd probably take a vacation here, like, every once in a while, you know what I'm saying? We do have a bigger party area than what was at Rainbow Retreat. This is kind of more, like, rich people partying, you know? Yeah, it was, like, kind of normal people partying over there. This is rich people partying, so, you know, cool POI. Cool POI. I like it. I like how it turned out. Alright, we have came across another shrine. This is the Flopper Shrine. This shrine gave out the mythic goldfish. Obviously no longer here, but maybe we'll see it in the future. Who knows? Who really knows? Alright, our next POI is Bombastic Base. This is another Chapter 2 Season 5 edition, and, you know, it's got, like, that kind of red military-esque aesthetic I was talking about for those camps earlier. Very flat POI, very low to the ground. Initially, I wanted to have, like, those roof pieces that the Frosty Fights gallery comes with, but for some reason those weren't, like, rendering. They didn't have, like, their models or, like, textures on or something. It was weird, so couldn't really do that considering I had to release the season within, like, the next few weeks as I was making the POI. So I was like, you know what, I'll just have to compromise, and this is what I came up with instead. It's not one of my favorite Chapter 2 Season 5 POIs, but I'm still a fan of it. I think it turned out nice, you know? Chapter 2 Season 5 is honestly, like, a top-tier Wotts Royale season, in my opinion, so yeah. Also, you have the main hangar building over here, you know, nothing too crazy. Alright, our next named POI is Totaled Temples. Totaled Temples, would you guess it, is another Chapter 2 Season 5 edition. This POI is obviously supposed to be like a temple kind of vibe, you know, jungle season, have to have a temple. That's kind of like part of the rule set, you know? This POI also, fun fact, used to function as another shrine POI. This right here, this shrine would have a pair of spire jump boots on it. Not one of the best mythics, but, you know, considering, you know, it was basically a give a free giveaway, or I guess you could say. You know, I feel like it's fitting just to, like, put it out there in the open. Anyone can grab it. Just first one to get there gets it, you know? This POI actually does have a second layer to it. As you can see, we have more, like, temples. Really obsessed with this weird shrine guy. I don't really know what his name is, you know, but he fits the vibe, you know what I'm saying? He fits the vibe, you know? kind of mysterious kind of ruins, you know? Alright, we have a new landmark. Well, not new this season, it was new last season, but I didn't showcase it in the last season tour because it wasn't in till like near the end of the season. This is Magma Fall. This was to celebrate the addition of Lake Lava over there. Just wanted to kind of put a nice little landmark in to kind of show like, hey, this is cool. I like having this in the map. And yeah, that's really about it. Nothing too crazy. You can go up here. And there are some chests up here you can grab, you know. Not a crazy landmark, but it's just a cool, nice little addition, you know? Alright, our next named POI is another Chapter 2 Season 5 edition. We're getting all the Chapter 2 Season 5 POIs out of the way. This POI is Octobot Outpost. It's another 2-layered POI. And it was added like around halfway through Chapter 2 Season 5. I don't remember if I showcased it in that video. I might have. But, you know, this POI actually originated as another one of those camp bases. It was that building, this building, and this building. It was these 3 buildings, and then halfway through the season I decided to, updated it. I kind of wanted to have a rule where I have to add 1 new POI in the middle of every season, so we have some like nice little content spread out, and this was one of those POIs. Chapter Season 5 ended up having 3, I believe. Demolished, Divot, Lake Lava, and Octobot Outpost, which was kind of crazy thinking back. That's probably why it's one of like the peak Wotts Royale Chapter 2 seasons, you know? But yeah. This originally wasn't all this aesthetic. It was kind of a mix of this aesthetic and like the rustic red kind of bombastic base looking kind of aesthetic. Like this building, that hangar, and this building were not originally like the futuristic kind of vibe, but Chapter 2 Season 6 I was like, might as well make them more futuristic. Fits with the theme of the season, and it also just makes the POI look a lot cleaner, you know? Alright, once you finish climbing this like tower, you get up to like this area, and then you can go over and kind of like run across this part. Or just get a kinetic blade just to make it faster. But you can't go down the stairs, but I feel like coming out the window. And yeah, now you're at the upper part of the POI. You got some more of these like futuristic buildings, Got one over there too. But the main part of this POI, the namesake of the POI actually, is this giant octobot. If you haven't noticed, the storyline has kind of been focusing around these weird looking octobots, which were the reason that Fountain Fortress was floating in the sky and crashed into Lake Lava. They brought it over there. They wanted to get what it was ever underneath like fungi, which was where Lake Lava was at the time. And whether they were successful or not, you can argue that. But this was like the main guy. And this guy hasn't moved yet. There is still plenty of Wotts Royale Chapter 2 seasons to kind of explain that. But right now, we are stuck with a giant like dead volcano, I guess you could say. It's not really active anymore. And we have an octobot without a purpose, and the other octobots are still on the map. They're kind of like circling Lake Lava, but there's nothing really going on with them right now. There is, however, a pretty important storyline going over with our next named POI, which we'll get to in just a second. So our next POI is Centurion's Caverns. So Centurion's Caverns is a new POI, technically, for Chapter 2 Season 6. Previously, last season, it was Centurion's Chambers, and, obviously, we have this up area, nothing too special, but I'm sure as you can see when we go down, it's a pretty big POI. This is actually the biggest POI on the map, I believe. Now, Centurion's Caverns differs from Centurion's Chambers as, it has another spot we'll get down to in a second, but there's also no boss here anymore. There is no chambers that you can get mythics from anymore. Those have been removed. And overall, it's just kind of a vacant place now. This is going on with the current storyline where Centurion, the guy who's here, who is the current main antagonist of the storyline, went missing, as seen by the map's thumbnail. Centurion's just not there. He is missing. Got a question mark on his face and everything, He's missing. And yeah, I'm just gonna give a quick tour of like everything important up here. First, we have where the trial or chamber of parkour used to be. Obviously you do parkour and get up there to get a mythic AK, which is no longer in the game. Obviously you couldn't break things in here last time or shoot in here last time, but now that is 100% possible, That is something that is 100% possible to do. Our next part of this POI is a part that has been around since Chapter 2 Season 1. This is the kind of like luxury jewelry store kind of building. We go in here, and the reason this POI is important is because every season there is a legendary item there's only one on the map. This plasma cannon, there's only one plasma cannon on the map, and it's right here. Can't get this anywhere else, and this item actually switches each season. Last season it was an airstrike. Season before it was a shockwave grenade, I believe. Shockwave grenade launcher, my bad. I believe it was that. Chapter 2 Season 3, it was a jetpack. Chapter 2 Season 2 was a slurp juice. And Chapter 2 Season 1 was a boombo. Now, this keeps getting updated. The only reason I actually kept it in this POI was because of that. If that didn't happen, then this POI would not be here anymore, and this probably would be some like generic futuristic building, but I decided to keep it for that main reason. And yeah, our next important part of this POI is the vault. So this POI did come with a vault. There used to be a lot more loot in here back when you had to earn the vault. Now there is no earning the vault, and you kind of just like get in here. There's still a decent amount of loot in here, but nothing too crazy, you know? Where we are right now is where the Chamber of Endurance used to be. So basically this chamber was basically a water maze where you had to swim and get to the end before, you know, you drown and die. That has obviously been removed, and now if you just come down here, since there's no challenge, there is no mythic. There used to be a mythic grappler to get here, but not anymore. You know, just don't get it anymore, you know? Alright, this building is another building that is returning from what was here previously, before Chapter 2 Season 5. This is the kind of Keyboard King building, you know? This building was a part of Slurp City, Slurp Scrapers, Sung Scrapers, all those POIs, and yeah. I just liked how this building turned out, you know? It's kind of got that one building aesthetic from Paradise Palms back in Chapter 1. It's kind of got that kind of vibe, you know? You know, got all the PCs here you can play around with, you know, and it's just an overall pretty cool looking building, so I decided to keep it around. Nothing other than that. That was the only reason. And now we are into our final important part of this POI before we get to what's actually new. This is where the Chamber of Knowledge used to be. So in here, you would come in here, and you couldn't shoot or build or anything in here, but you used to be able to interact with this computer, I guess you'd say. It would ask you some questions, and if you got all the questions right, you get the Mythic Explosive Mechanical Bow. Now, that's not in the game anymore. Now it's just kind of here for show, and you can break it and stuff. But, yeah. You know, all the mythics from this POI have been removed since, you know, it's no longer relevant. But, you know, it's still a cool explore, you know, if you want to come down to this POI. You know, it's pretty cool. Alright, now we're getting into the new stuff of this POI. If you go down here, we will see why this POI is now called Centurion's Caverns, you know? Pretty big cave, you know? There's a lot of crystals on the walls and stuff. We got some stalactites, stalagmites, you know, whatever they're called. Pretty spacious area, you know? Nothing crazy going on here. It's just like a big old cave area. This isn't my first time doing a cave. I have done caves before, but this is like a modern take on like a cave for me, you know? And if we go down here, there's actually a second part to this cave. You know, you get through this like tight little crawl space, and then you get into some more open area, you know? Pretty cool open area. And yeah, you can keep traveling through this POI until you get to the exit, which will actually bring us to our next new named POI. Before we get to our actual next named POI, I actually just kind of want to go over the Sniper Outpost. This is a landmark that, you know, was introduced in Chapter Season 1 as part of a Wild Week. That Wild Week has obviously since ended. It's been a while since Chapter 2 Season 1. But this landmark has just remained because I liked it, you know? That was it. I also forgot to mention there's one of these over by Sunny Stage, but we're gonna get back around to that area, so we'll showcase that when we get over there. We also have another named POI I want to get to before we get to our first like launch new POI for Chapter 2 Season 6. This is the Junkyard. This is a POI that was introduced during Chapter 2 Season 2, and you know, features whole junkyard kind of aesthetic. This was added because of the addition of dumpsters. Obviously, dumpster diving was new, so I added a POI to kind of represent that. You know, nothing too crazy other than that. There have been some small updates, such as the slurp sign that was here being replaced by a pizza truck since that was turned into trash, and this is now trash too. You know, nothing too crazy changed here. There's now a road going around this POI and a sidewalk, so you know, required some updates, but you know, it's overall the same. Alright, this is our first new named POI. This is Neocat Gas, not to be confused with Neon Cat Gas. This is actually an evolution of that POI. So Neocat Gas is a futuristic kind of reinterpretation of Neon Cat Gas, obviously renamed as Neo because that just makes sense. You know, most of these buildings are kind of like reimagined versions of the old buildings, such as this Mega Mall building, maybe reimagining of the Noms building that was here previously. It's the same layout and everything, it's just like a futuristic aesthetic. This building over here is exactly the same as it was. I just felt like it was too iconic to the POI to remove, so I kept it. We also have some new additions, such as this new Neon Cat sign. Previously, it was just like a metal plank with a Neon Cat spray on it. nothing too crazy. And yeah, we also have some new skyscraper kind of buildings. We got this slap juice building, a pizza pit building, and a Durburger building, where those restaurants were previously, you know. Nothing too crazy. The bottom floors are all the same as they used to be, but we have some new floors going up and up and up, you know. We also have two completely new and original buildings. First, the gas station is now very small, minuscule, you know. Nothing too crazy, but it does come with a convenience store now, kind of reminiscent of like a Buc-ee's, kind of. You know what Buc-ee's is? It's like the biggest like gas station in the world. Yeah, this is kind of reminiscent of a Buc-ee's, you know, the biggest gas station in the world. You know, other than that, nothing too crazy going on here. You know, you got like your generic kind of like shop kind of aesthetic, you know, nothing too crazy with this building. Then we get around here. This building is fairly unique, so we get into here and we get over here. Now, there are some changes that this building isn't really like up to its like fullest potential, because unfortunately storage was an issue. But this was originally intended to be a car dealership kind of area. It didn't really end up being that because storage, as you can tell, kind of forced the cars not to be here, which was kind of sad, but you know, whatever, we can get over it. It's still a cool looking building, just kind of empty, unfortunately. But you have like these like rooms where you can like sign like all the legal papers and stuff. Got a cool looking statue in here, and you even have a area where you can just drive out with the car, you know. And we also have another statue over here, which you wouldn't really see unless you like come around, you know. Alright, our next landmark is Holly Home, obviously a Christmas inspired POI, and this POI was added in Chapter 2 Season 3, the Christmas themed season, so, you know, that's pretty obvious, you know. It's just a small little landmark, you know, replaced kind of like a boring kind of building that was here previously. And yeah, nothing else other than that. It's just a nice little landmark. I did accidentally skip over a kind of new landmark. This is the Meaningless Farm. This was previously the Mushroom Farm. There used to be plenty of mushrooms here, but they had to get removed due to storage reasons, which is why I had to rename this to the Meaningless Farm. Other than that, nothing too crazy. It's the same otherwise. Not really as viable as it used to be, obviously, because there's no more mushrooms here. But, you know, it's still a nice little landmark. Still brings some life to the map, you know? Alright, and our next POI is Snowy Station. Snowy Station was added during Chapter 2 Season 3, part of the snow biome, you know? Pretty cool. Pretty small POI, but cool nonetheless. This was actually to celebrate a new mechanic being trains. So, obviously you can see the trains are still here. Unfortunately, I had to get rid of the train mechanic because it just was kind of too janky. And it was taking up storage, and for something that didn't really work as well as I wanted it to, it just didn't work out. Trains are still here. They're great sources of metal. There's also a bunch of loot in them. You know, you can still have a bunch of fun here, you know? You also have, like, the main building. You know, it's like the train stop area. Got some TVs. You got, like, a depiction of what happened to surrounded suburbs in Chapter 1. You know? Pretty cool. And, yeah. Nothing too crazy other than that. So, with the trains, we obviously had to have pit stops, so this landmark, appropriately named Pit Stop, was the first area you would go to. This next pit stop, by the name of Next Destination, was the second area you would go to. And then this third pit stop and final stop would take you here, which would actually conveniently lead you to our next named POI, being Wonder Workshop. So Wonder Workshop is a kind of like Santa's Workshop inspired POI, as you can tell, with like the whole like red buildings, you know. We obviously have the main building over here. Ooh, lagging a little bit. The main building over here, which is obviously the workshop building itself. You know, you got like the kind of like break area over here. And then we have the conveyor belt, which takes all these presents over to this truck, which would take them around the island to be delivered, even though I don't think anyone actually lives here. You know, there's still, you know, still Santa Claus here, obviously. If we keep going, we'll get over to one of my favorite buildings, one of the most charming buildings in my opinion. This is like Santa's like home. You know, I always got the two chairs for Mr. and Mrs. Claus, obviously. You got like the couch set up, you know, with the TV. And then you come up here and you have to do a little bit of parkour to get up into the bedroom, which, you know, at first doesn't really make sense, but then you realize that Fortnite Santa is kind of ripped, and this really bad design just makes a lot more sense when you think about it like that, you know? Really convenient way to get around some poor map design, in my opinion, you know? And then over here we have like kind of like storage area with like a bunch of wheat for the reindeers, obviously. Nothing too crazy going on in here though. Next we have the elves sleeping quarters. Obviously you got a bunch of like smaller beds for like the elves, which are smaller like people, you know? And you can keep going up here. This sleeping quarters was actually inspired by Sandy Storage Sleeping Quarters, which Sandy Storage is a POI that is no longer on the map. It was introduced in Chapter 2 Season 1, but was removed in Chapter 2 Season 4. You know, it's nice to know that a part of that POI is still around in the form of these sleeping quarters. Now, finally, for this POI, we have two stables, you know, obviously for the reindeers. You can kind of put them somewhere, you know, they can like chill out where it's nice and chill for them to be, you know. Place where, you know, they can be when it's not Christmas and they don't have a job to do, you know. Pretty cool. And we also have a nice looking clock tower, because obviously there's got to be a clock tower in like a Santa's Workshop kind of POI, you know. It's just gotta happen. Alright, our next landmark is one of my favorite personal landmarks. This is Derailed. So Derailed is a crashed train landmark, and as you can see, you know, the train crashed into a mountain. So basically what happened here was, when I was building this POI, I was originally going to have the trains travel all the way from Snowy Station to Derailed. But once I built it, I realized this is kind of clunky. This wouldn't really work too well. The trains just can't rotate, and there's not enough space for another pit stop for another train, you know? So I decided to scrap that idea. Made the trains a lot more, like, condensed, you know, not as useful, and eventually remove them all together with their functionality. But I decided to keep this landmark on the map just because, you know, why not? It adds a little bit more life, and I decided to turn it into like a crashed train, you know? And yeah, it's one of my favorite landmarks I've ever designed, you know? It's pretty cool. Alright, our next landmark, and what I believe is the final landmark of the snow biome, is Classic Cabin. So Classic Cabin's just your stereotypical, you know, log cabin. You know, you got like all the basic necessities you need. You got entertainment, you got food, you got a sleeping area, you know. Nothing too crazy, but, you know, it's cozy, you know, it's chill, you know, you got cool little vibes here, you know. Alright, our next named POI is Carol Community. So Carol Community is like a Christmas town kind of inspired POI. You got these like shop buildings, you know, that you can also have as a home, you know. Kind of those kind of buildings, you know what I'm talking about, but like that kind of like inspiration, you know. You also have just generic homes, you know. You come in here, you got like everything you need for a house, you know. Pretty cool. There is another upper level, and I believe this is the first POI to kind of be split onto like 2 levels like this. You know, you had Total Temples and Octobot Outposts over there, which were split into 2 levels, but this is like the first time I've done it, I believe. This obviously comes up into this area, which obviously have some bigger houses, you know. Let's see. More open area, and you can come up here, and there's actually a attic room with some boxes, and yeah. And if we keep going over here, we can actually find the main attraction of this POI, which is this kind of like open, like community, like breakfast kind of thing, which is kind of inspired by something that my fire department does. Cool POI. I like how it like pulls from like something I know from real life, you know. Pretty cool kind of like aesthetic too. Christmas is always chill vibe, you know. It's a fun time to be here, you know. All right, our next POI is the Rink. Not the Rink. What am I talking about? Righteous Rink. The Rink is the name of this building. Righteous Rink is a remix version of Righteous Rafts from Chapter 1 of Wotts Royale, which returned to the landmark in Chapter 2, but we'll get to that. This main building, you know, you come in here. Obviously, got to be an ice rink. Something you may notice if you watched the previous Snap Tours is that the video player that was here previously, no longer here. Simply storage. You can blame it all on storage. Storage is the reason why I have to remove a lot of things that I don't want to, such as that Bombitron, like, video screen player. Just unfortunate how things go like that sometimes, but, you know, sacrifices have to be made, you know? Can't always have it your way, you know? And if we keep coming over here, we can obviously see that the Righteous Rafts buildings is still here. It's been here ever since Chapter 1, Season 1. It's on this map since Chapter 2, Season 1. You know, obviously going here, it's a classic Righteous Rafts building. Nothing too crazy. We also have the rafts out there in the water, you know. Righteous Rafts is nothing without its rafts. And, yeah. Obviously had to keep that around. Alright, our final snow biome POI is the Outlands. So the Outlands is a idea that I had that I was just like, what if there was a named POI that was made entirely out of player built structures? And so I did that. This was an idea that was previously established by a landmark, which is now part of the same POI, which is down there, and we'll get to that in a second. But this was just kind of like a further fleshed out version of that idea. The idea was just to have a very unique like architecture, very unique play style around this POI. You know, just kind of playable structure. Playable structure was the idea. You know, nothing too crazy, but you know, just kind of the idea. If you go around in these buildings, you will see that there is like bottom areas like basements and stuff. And if we get to the main building, which is the main tower building, which I actually said was the building that competed with Covert campsite for being the tallest point on the map. This POI actually has a dungeon area. You can see it's got like a prison cell kind of vibe, you know? And as we get up here, we'll actually be able to confirm or deny if this is the tallest point. And I believe it isn't by like a slight margin. I believe like the tower, like the roof on Covert campsite is slightly taller by like one wall. But you know, you can always edit these to be like that, you know? Could do that, and then now it's the tallest point, you know? This doesn't come like that, unfortunately. So, you know, this is not the tallest point. Covert campsite is by like one block, you know? Nothing too crazy. You will notice that this crane here, this crane is here as a reference to the old like immense like corporation kind of POIs, you know? Basically what happened was the Immense Corp was like the main antagonist, which was run actually by Centurion during all of Chapter 1. And then when Chapter 2 started, the Valley Memories, which is what was here previously before the Snow Biome update, had like one of the old immense buildings, and it had that crane. So the guys at the Outlands just kind of took it. Alright, and this is the bottom part of the Outlands. This is like the landmark that was here previously that I was talking about. This was here in Chapter 2 Season 1, I believe, as like Underpass Hideout or something like that. I forget the exact name. I'd have to go back and look. But, you know, just another idea of player-built structures. This time it was more like a, like I don't know, like an underpass kind of vibe, you know. Nothing too crazy, but, you know, it's there, it exists, it's cool, it's a cool idea. Alright, we get into our next named POI. This is Cyber Central. This is a new POI in Chapter 2 Season 6 and is a remix version of Chug Central from previous Chapter 2 Seasons. Chug Central was introduced in Chapter 2 Season 2, got revamped into this for Chapter 2 Season 6. Obviously more futuristic vibes, you know. Extra buildings like this building and that building were not here previously. They are new additions. Also, something I forgot to mention at Neocat Guess is that we have these like computer faces. And you can actually initiate trades with them, and they will say, accept trade offer. And then, for example, this computer says, I'll give you a mythic suppressed SMG if I receive a legendary suppressed sniper, a rare lock-on pistol, and a shield bubble. Will you accept my offer? And you can accept the trade offer. And you will always be able to come back to this. You'll always be able to come back to this at any point during the game after you accept the trade offer. And if you bring those items to him, guess what? You'll get the mythic. I'm not going to spend too long trying to look for all those items because I don't feel like doing that right now. But, you know, the option's there, you know. Other than the 3 new buildings, I believe I said there was. Yeah, 3 new buildings. Every other building is the same, just with a revamped aesthetic. Obviously, as you can tell. This building still has plenty of slurp barrels, so this POI is still goated for getting slurp. Like, full insta-shield, you know? Still, like, the best POI for that, you know? And, yeah, nothing too crazy. And this POI is right next to Sunny State, so it's a good rotation. And here is the sniper tower that I was talking about earlier that I missed. But here it is now. Same thing as the other sniper tower, you know? Also, something I forgot to mention while I was over by Ripsaw Ridge and Slappy site is that there are now 2 upgrade stations up in the sky. This one over here and the one over by Ripsaw Ridge. So obviously you can come up here and you just have to find like the right upgrade. So the first level is gray to green upgrades. We don't have any gray weapons to upgrade, so you know, we can't upgrade anything here. But if you did have any gray thing, you can take like the weapon that's gray and 20 gold and you get a gray weapon. Same thing can be said for the green, but this time it takes 50 gold to go from green to blue. And there's a more upgrades option because obviously some weapons don't exist in certain rarities, like dual suppressed pistols don't exist in gray rarity, so you can't upgrade from gray to green. This is blue to purple, which will take you 100 gold plus the weapon, which I believe we can actually upgrade one of our weapons here. Yeah, the railgun. The railgun, we can interact with this and we can upgrade it. And now we have a purple railgun. Then if you come up here, this will be purple to gold, and we can actually upgrade like all of our weapons here. So we'll do that. Gold AR, gold tac, and we don't actually have enough, do we? Yeah, we do not have enough for a gold railgun. And we have our final level here, which would be like, what? Gold to mythic? Yes, actually. There are 2 mythics you can get here. They're not the only mythics in the loot pool, and there are other mythics that you can get, but these 2 are exclusive to the upgrade benches. So you have the Mythic Rapid Fire, which will take you a gold Rapid Fire and 300 gold, and a Mythic Cobra DMR, which will take the legendary Cobra DMR and 300 gold. Quite expensive, but for Mythic, you know, it's worth it. It's a Mythic weapon, you know? What can you really do? Alright, and now we're getting to the desert biome. And first, we might as well just mention Stardust Oasis. This was previously Starry Oasis, which was a lot more like life-like, you know? There was palm trees here, there's water here, but storage reasons had to get rid of it, unfortunately. Yeah, just kind of unfortunate what the storage limitations does to a man, you know? And now we are into our first named POI of the desert biome. This is Rickety Refuge. The Rickety Refuge is like a kind of like scrapyard kind of aesthetic, you know? It's a place to live. You can live here. It's fully livable. You can live a happy, full life here. And yeah, it's very compact. I like how compact it is, especially given how big this POI actually is. The buildings are very compact, very small, very easy to understand. You can understand where everything is very quickly, very nicely, you know. This POI actually did used to have a vault in this location, where this camper, I guess you could say, where this camper is actually used to be home to a vault. And this vault would be opened by going over to the capture point and capturing this and getting the keycard from here and bringing it over to the vault, you know. That was how vaults were in Chapter 2 Season 4. They're not like that anymore. Vaults actually aren't even on the current map outside of like the one in Centurion's caverns, which doesn't really function as a vault, so, you know, it doesn't really count. But, you know, just how it is. Also, before we leave, I just want to show you guys an Easter egg in this POI. If you break open this wall, you can see this. These guys just having a good old fun time, you know? Great time these guys are having in here, you know? There's no other way to access this other than breaking the wall, and I think that's for the best, and I think we'll leave them to their thing. Our next named POI is Carved Crumbles. So Carved Crumbles is another ruinous POI. It was introduced before Total Temples, so it's the OG, and it's a lot bigger than Total Temples. It's a pretty big POI. Like, oh my god, I'm just not realizing how big this POI is. It's pretty lengthy, pretty big POI. Yeah, nothing really else to say about it. It's nothing too crazy. It's quite empty for it being a bunch of ruins, you know? There's nothing insane going on here. Obviously, there are pathways to make it easier to access, like, all, like, the different ruins and stuff. But other than that, like, nothing too crazy going on here. There's a decent amount of loot here for being such a big POI, so, you know, pretty cool. Alright, our next named POI is a Chapter 2 Season 1 edition. I actually believe this is the last Chapter 2 Season 1 named POI on the map, which is kind of crazy to think about. Like, that's pretty insane. So, Boundary Borderlands is another desert POI, another, like, kind of apocalyptic kind of vibe. It was introduced before Chapter 2 Season 4, which was the Apocalypse season, and this POI actually has a pretty interesting backstory. So, this POI was originally from a scrapped DR map I made, from the first ever biome map I made, and the name Boundary Borderlands just kind of stuck. I liked the name, so I reused it for this POI, which is kind of like the same aesthetic, you know? So, I obviously had to use it again. The original Boundary Borderlands is not very good on the account of it being entirely prefabs. You know, I was just willing good at building back then when I made that map in like 2019, I want to say. I think it was 2019 when I first made that map. It was during like early Chapter 2. So that's how you know it's old. Yeah, nothing too crazy. This POI actually did receive an update in Chapter Season 4 to have a vault, but that has since been revoked on account of it no longer being the desert season or apocalypse season, you know? And yeah, it's just going back to how it was previously, you know? Alright, our next named POI is Frantic Films. So Frantic Films is a film site, like pretty obviously. And yeah, it's got everything you would expect from a film site. You got green screen sets, three to be exact. I messed up a little bit there. You have this one, which I believe is more for filming interviews and stuff. It's kind of what it looks like. This one here, which is kind of just a generic set, you know, getting ready to film some stuff, you know, got a rail thing, maybe, for, like, moving cameras along, you know. And then you got this set, which is for, like, indoor kind of, like, sets and, like, needs, you know. You then have this building, which is kind of like a area where you get together, kind of eat, and kind of just watch from a distance, you know, kind of watch everything that's going on. And then you also have all of these, like, RVs, because, you know, everyone on, like, a film set has RVs they live in for, like, 8 months for some reason. And, yeah, that's what's going on here. Our next landmark is nothing crazy, but this is Tourist Trap, another landmark, you know, nothing too crazy. It's another, like, ruinous kind of POI. got nothing too crazy going on here. I don't know how many times I've said nothing too crazy, but I have. So that's something. And yeah, this is Forest Trap. Our next new POI is Fallout Farm. This is actually, I believe, the first farm POI that Royale's ever seen, which is kind of insane to think about it. For a first farm POI, I don't think I did too bad. It's definitely not one of my favorites, and I think POIs like this and Carved Crumbles are what hold Chapter 2 Season 4 down for me, in my opinion. They're just nothing crazy. They do have some nice little details, like these dead llamas. I've mentioned this before, but I do wish that these had, like, just the llama skeletons without, like, the, like, campfire underneath it. I think it would just be, like, better for building, in my opinion, but, you know, we don't always have everything we want, so, you know, we're just gotta learn that. Other than that, there are some silos, more pens with more dead llamas. We have this kind of, I don't really know, I'm blanking on what I would call this, I don't know why. Obviously, have the cornfields, which we just cleared out a bunch of them, which was kind of crazy. And then you have the barn building, which is probably the most interesting part. There's 3 layers, you know, you can kind of climb up here, you know, climb up everything. You know, it's pretty cool. It's pretty neat. Pretty sweet, man. Pretty sweet barn, you know? Alright, this is our final desert landmark. So this is Trashy Campers. This is a remixed version of Trashy Travels, which is a named POI from Chapter 1 of Wotts Royale. So, this POI, nothing too crazy going on. It just has, the only thing that's really notable is this POI. The building's the only thing that really makes this an old POI. The fact that it's an old building from an old season. So it makes it interesting. The campus part is obviously represented by this campsite over here, and yeah, that's about it. That's the only really interesting thing with this POI, you know? Just a small little landmark to kind of fill up space, you know? Alright, and now we have Container Corner, which is probably my favorite Chapter 2 Season 4 edition. I really love how this POI, I love how compact this POI turned out. I love how unique this POI is. It's a POI that has no, like, on-grid buildings. It's just purely prop buildings. Obviously, you have, like, the frames and structures that are, like, grid snapped pieces. But, like, the actual buildings themselves, like, this, like, container over here. This is what the buildings are. They're just, like smaller containers with, like, all the necessities that you need to live, you know? So, that's why I love this POI. It's just so unique. It looks cool. It plays unique. There's multiple different levels to it. It's just, mwah. Chef's kiss of a POI, you know what I'm saying? It's just perfection, in my opinion. Alright, moving on to our final landmark of the video. This is Dippin' Docks. So Dippin' Docks was introduced at the start of Chapter 2 Season 6, and funny enough, this was actually turned into a fully fledged named POI on my reload map, which I might make a tour of very soon. So, you know, stay tuned for that. But this is the original Dippin' Docks. This is what the OG looks like. It's nothing too crazy. It's just a small little dock POI, you know. It's cool. I like how Dippin' Docks looks. It's got a cool name. You know, obviously reference to Dippin' Dots. Dippin' Dots, you know. And yeah, it's just a charming little POI, you know. Pretty cool. I originally had plans to turn this into a full-fledged named POI, but I just felt it was too close to another named POI, which we're going to get to very shortly. And this is our final named POI of the video. This is Somber Skylines. This is the only fully original launch POI that was introduced in Chapter 2 Season 6. This replaces Chaos's abandoned abode, kind of. It's still kind of here, but, you know what I mean, you know what I mean. The building is still here, but it's kind of more of a memorial for Chaos, who is dead, you know. He's no longer with us. He wasn't really sacrificing himself. He kind of, like, got murked by Centurion. But, you know, he still was valiant, so they memorialized him, because he's, like, the hero. But, anyways, we have more, skyscraper buildings, you know. Nothing too crazy. Obviously, with the Pizza Pit building, you know, it's just a skyscraper with Pizza Pit restaurant kind of aesthetic, you know. We also have these, like, shop buildings. So, like, you go in here, there's, like, a shop section, you know, like, registers. Keep going, and there's, like, more, like, stuff you can buy and stuff. It's just, you know, you get the vibe. We have this one really tall building, which we can go up to all the way to the top, or not. I could fall over, but, you know, you get the vibe. It's more the same kind of grocery, like, skyscraper building, you know. Obviously, Skylines has to be the name for a reason, you know. It's skyscrapers. We also have these two big, like, slap juice and, like, This is a slurp building, but you wouldn't really know because they don't really have branding anymore, but you can tell by the slurp barrels in here. They don't have the branding anymore, but you can tell. It's kind of the same Cyber Central aesthetic, you know? Obviously, you can tell same kind of vibe, but these buildings are actually unique because they have, like, a passage area we can go through, and, you know, you can get to the other part of the building. So it's pretty unique, pretty cool. And the same thing with the slab building, as I'll show you. As you can see, we got over here to the slab building. This one actually has functioning windows, unlike the slurp building. This shows that slap is way better than slurp, in my opinion, okay? Don't come at me. But, you know, that's just how the world is. That's just how the world is, you know? And, yeah. This is Somber Skylines, final POI of this video, and, you know, pretty cool location.
Alright. I say,